I'd like to call the Tuesday, December 2nd, 2014 Papillion City Council meeting to order. Mrs. Wahinko, would you please take the roll?
Lawrence. Here. Mumgard. Here. Gaines. Glover. Here. Jaworski. Here. Klug. Here. Stubbe. Here. Ingberg. Here.
We've got a Boy Scout troop with us, Pack 206 from Walnut Creek and Patriot. They're going to come up and help us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Do we have an affidavit of publication on file?
That is correct.
And a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in the council chambers. Mr. Hoynes, Administrator's report, please.
Moment here, I wasn't ready for that, Mr. Mayor. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I would be remiss this evening if I didn't start my administrator's report talking about the wonderful event last weekend at Winter Wonderland, and I won't steal any of the mayor's thunder because I'm sure he has some insights on that. But for those of you that weren't able to attend, it was a wonderful event. I'd like to take just a couple of minutes, though, and recognize some of the staff members that really made this thing take place. Tony Gowan is our city parks director. I think he's in the crowd. Tony, if you could raise your hand. It's Tony's in charge of making sure all those lights go up for those of you in the crowd and the council members, and I'm sure he would immediately defer credit to all of his staff that did that. But along with Tony, we had several of the other people that you're going to point here tonight. I think it's important to point out that they're there on their own time. There's no extra pay, and I'll tell you what a handful of them did. In particular, Marty Lemming, close your ears. He sat in for Santa Claus over at the Portal School from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock with one 10-minute break with literally hundreds of young people sitting, and he told me that he promised every little girl a pony out there so that they would come through. But no, Marty wouldn't do that. But again, Marty doing that on his own time. Chief Bose from the fire department was down there at 7 o'clock. They had served over 500 pounds of chili in little cups, and there were lines still out into the street. I think it was the number 700 pounds. And again, the Papillion Community Foundation puts this event on. The city staff supports it for those of you that aren't familiar with the event. To my right, Carla Rupiper, the city attorney, was one of the people loading and unloading the carriages throughout most of the evening. She was out there. Jeff Jones from the fire department, and our one and very own Lori Hansen. She actually was there as a performer with her group, the Pluckin' Nuts. Is that right? That we're singing Christmas carols as we went through, and so it's really, I thought it's important to pull that. And maybe there were other department heads that I missed there, and I apologize if you were there and I missed you, but those people were there working very, very hard. Finally, anytime somebody asked me and said what was a fine event, I said of all those people, and again, I didn't name them, but if you see the folks in the orange traffic think safety shirts, thank them. They're the ones that spent the last 45 days of folks that worked for Tony with 9-foot poles on the end of a nail, putting all of those lights up. And even today I saw them going through there. So that stuff just doesn't happen. We don't go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and throw them on. And they were all sitting up there, and I was sitting by Tony Gowan and said, do you ever feel a little bit like Bo Pelini if these lights don't go on? And he said, I don't know, do I? But second thing, sticking with Christmas theme, Thanksgiving morning we had our miracle on 84th Street. People that live in the south end of town, that 84th Street actually opened back up. Thanksgiving morning, it's not completely done, but it's open now for traffic flow, and you don't have to route around that. They'll be finishing that project up. If you remember, it's a multi-million-dollar project that was approved in 2007. We'll be finishing it. We just picked it up last year, but I blame the federal government. Last thing, Mr. Mayor, the Veterans Park that the mayor and council have worked diligently on getting that off the ground. We started to partner with the Papillion Community Foundation. They're actually holding an event a week from tonight at the Twisted Vine downtown to create recognition and awareness for that project. There is really a very grand master plan to finish that park, and we're looking for partnerships and city resources to finish that off. So if any of you are free next Tuesday night, run on down to the Twisted Vine. You can learn more about that project. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilwoman Klug, second by Councilman Jaworski. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents?
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
I would like to take number C5 and C7 off of the consent agenda.
Which one?
C5 and C7.
C5 and C7 are pulled. Any other council discussion? Please vote on everything except C5 and C7.
7 yeas, no nays.
Motion passes. Next is item C5, Resolution R140188, a resolution to award the bid for the Eagle Ridge Splash Pad. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution R140188? Motion by Councilman Mumgarden, second by Councilman Jaworski. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents? Council discussion. Mr. Mumgarden.
I just want to take this opportunity to first off thank my other council members. I know that I've been a thorn in your side for years about getting a second splash pad. And clear back over a year ago, you were so kind to finally agree to a spot in Eagle Ridge for this second splash pad. And I thank you again for doing that. And it has taken us now, this long to get the details worked out. But they have been worked out, and I think what we have here is a very fine addition to the recreation opportunities in the Papillion area. I thank you again for approving going out for bid here a few weeks ago when I was not present. You couldn't happen without you, so thank you very much. And I also want to say that it's been a long time, but we're making progress, and I'm extremely pleased what we've seen in the last several months with the support and cooperation of the SID leadership and residents, the people that have come forward from that area saying, yes, we want this in our park. They're going to be fine citizens of Papillion someday. And they've already shown that they really are our neighbors. And this is a unique experience in that we're putting in we're spending taxpayer money on a facility outside of the city. And as the mayor well knows, because he and I have had many discussions with this, that's something we haven't done before. But they are our neighbors. They're joining with us in doing it. They're very happy to have us build this, and I think we, in the long run, are going to be very happy that we're doing this. So, again, I thank you and encourage you all to vote not only for this one, but also C7, the interlocal agreement that will get it done.
Mr. Jaworski.
2 days' time, we couldn't have done it without you, so you know that one. But this isn't taxpayer money. This is Keno Fund money, right?
Our portion is Keno, and then the SID is doing their contribution. Okay. Yes.
And I'll thank you for that. That's a very good correction. And, I've always had the philosophy that Keno money should be reserved for things like this. Now, that's not a philosophy that all cities in Nebraska follow. Some, use it for property tax reduction, stuff like that. Philosophically, I've never been in favor of that. That Keno money comes from an addition in our community of gambling that some people are not in favor of. And if we're going to have that, then we spend the money on something like this that truly adds to the quality of life in Papillion. So thank you for bringing that up.
Any other council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, no nays.
Motion passes. Next is item C7, Resolution R14-0190, a resolution to approve an interlocal cooperation agreement and a lease for Eagle Ridge Park. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Councilman Ingberg. Second by Councilman Stube. Do you have any proponents? Any opponents? Council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, no nays.
Motion passes. Next is item E1, Ordinance 1706. An ordinance to approve the change of zone of certain real property within the zoning jurisdiction of the City of Papillion, Sarpy County, Nebraska, legally described as Lot 1, St. Columbkill Parish, together with Lots 23, 24B, 25, 26, 27, 28B, and Lots A through F, inclusive Terra Heights, both subdivisions in Sarpy County, Nebraska. Generally located on the northeast corner of 84th Street and 6th Street from R2, single-family residential medium density, and R3, urban family residential, to R3, urban family residential, to amend the official zoning map of the City of Papillion by changing the zoning district boundaries of the zoning map in accordance with Section 20532 of the Papillion Municipal Code, and to provide for an effective date. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Do we have any proponents, those who want to speak in favor? And if you'd introduce yourself.
I'm Father Damien Zerline. I'm the pastor of St. Columbkill's Parish. I'm in my 11th year there as pastor.
I heard a rumor that 11 years you need to transition. Is that right?
The Archbishop is talking to me about my next assignment. So we have a term limit of 12.
Well, you've been a nice part of the community. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I've enjoyed my time here in Papillion, and it's been a great experience for me. I'd like to give you a little background onto how we got here, and then we'll turn it over to the architect and engineer and let them kind of go through what the plan is here. St. Columbkill's been in the community for a long time, longer than I have. Since 1877 was when it was started, and that's an image actually of that very first church and rectory. That rectory is still there on the west side of 84th Street. Looks a little different, but still there. The church was built in 1878. They added a little addition on in 1904. The school was built, first one in 1916, and one of the famous beginnings of our school was Father Flanagan, who started Boys Town, brought his first boarders to that school because it was a border school. It was built on the property where the school is at presently. So the second church then was built on that block where our school is at 6th and Jefferson. In the 1960s, the parish built a convent, a school addition with a gym was added, and the church was remodeled. But as you're all aware, and at the last meeting I was at here, you heard about the amazing growth in Papillion and La Vista since the beginning in the 60s and 70s and up till today. So the church was not big enough. Masses were held in public schools and in Springfield. So the leadership had to build a new church, and they looked around to figure out where they were going to do that at. There was discussion about doing it outside of town, getting 20, 30 acres and building out there, but the leadership at the time decided that the church needed to be where it always was, in the heart of Papillion. So instead of going outside of town, they just went across the street to the little bit of the Hogan homestead that was there and built the new church. There's that population increase. I don't think when they designed that little spot that they ever thought Papillion would grow as fast as it's grown. The Archdiocese has tried to break up a little part of our responsibility. St. Columbkill Parish is supposed to cover from Harrison Street to the river, to the Platte River, from the Papillion Creek on the east over to 36th Street to 144th and the interstate on the west. So the center part of Sarpy County is our responsibility to care for the Catholics in that area. So they started St. Matthew's Parish, they started St. Charles Borromeo, we split off Springfield, but we still have a lot of people. There's that growth. So there's the communities that were added. Right now, we have about 3,000 families, about 9,000 individuals in the parish. I've talked to the Archbishop about how soon a new parish would be built between us and probably St. Pat's and Gretna. It's not anywhere on the planning at this point in time. So since it's not anywhere in the planning, I'd say we're at least 20 years out, probably before that would happen. Some of you are probably aware we have land on 370. That land is up for sale. It's not a large enough piece of property to really build a new church there. So it'll probably be out near the ball field somewhere or around the interstate where the new one would go. The choice by parish leadership in the 70s to build in this part of town meant that there probably wasn't enough parking, there wasn't enough space. So over the years, the parish has bought a house here or there when they've come up for sale. We know that there's congestion on 6th Street. And we know that traffic has increased on 6th Street with all the commercial developments on 72nd. We know that the neighbors have not liked our present lighting, and some of the parking lot design is not really neighborhood friendly at this time. So we went to the neighbors, we sought input, and we've come up kind of with this plan. We recently were able to purchase 4 houses right to the east of the church, and that was wonderful, so that we could put together a kind of a package. So I'll turn it over to Dave and Art. Does that one better?
There we go. I'm Dave Ciascio with Vireo, 1111 North 13th Street, Omaha, so I'm the campus planner on the project. What I'll do is take you through some of the highlights of the campus plan itself, and I think it's best, everybody has monitors, so I just go with a laser pointer up here, it'd be best for everybody. Okay. I'll take you through this. Of course, we have the church in this location, and the parking lot, everything out in front of the church remains the same. Parking lot out along 84th remains the same with one exception, and that is where the current aisle comes to 6th Street. We're moving that back about 100 feet to allow more stacking distance to 84th. That'll take small retaining wall in this area, which will match the other walls in the front. So again, this parking remains the same. Running along the north side is additional parking. The rectory remains the same. The house that Columkill owns just to the east of that remains the same, and the open lot remains the same, so there's no impact to this area. The kind of dark line you see along here is a low wall. The reason being that's going to have to become a retaining wall, because what will happen is right now, as you know, that steps up, that area will come down to allow for a continuous drive aisle to circulate all the way into the new parking area. There'll be parking along that. The chiller units, if this project has to relocate them from the north side of the church, they'll go in this area. They'll be properly screened per code with masonry enclosure. By moving those, it allows for a drop-off zone into the north entry of the church for weddings and funerals and continued access. And then moving around to the east side, this parking area outside the chapel, the new addition, is slightly reconfigured, but basically the same. And then you have your new parking bays. If you kind of squint, you can see where the 4 houses are, the 4 lots are. That's the location to give us orientation. And I'm going to step back for a minute because I passed up. This white square is the future church office and storage facility. Its location is there because it was the original master planned location in 1970s when the church was designed. So we're keeping with the authentic location of that parish office, and a small meditation courtyard next to it. So of course, when the old current offices come down, the current offices then, someday will go there, but in the meantime, they're going to go to the yellow house, the first house down the hill, you might say. That'll be renovated to current temporary offices. The parking itself is 3 tiers. Each tier drops about 4 feet. There is a low 2 to 3 foot wall that is between each of those to pick up the grade. There is also native vegetation between those, which will absorb some stormwater and help with runoff situation, and all runoff that is not absorbed will come down to a rain garden area at the extreme lower end of the property. That's about a 5,000 square foot rain garden and landscape feature. What you see in the light colored bays is permeable paving that will absorb stormwater as well and filter stormwater for the project. And also, let's talk a little bit about access as well, or egress, if you will. I talked about this one location here. There's also, this aisle is slightly realigned to line up with the street across, the road across the street. And this aisle aligns, or this access point aligns with Monroe Street. You can't see unless you really look closely, but in each of these, it's 3 lanes wide, one for a right turnout, one for a left turnout, and one for an inbound. That'll help with the circulation out of all of this, as well as then a center turn lane is being striped from the length of the property to give us left-hand movements and help with stacking situations, so improve safety. The photos down the right side, possible look of the rain garden area down here. The idea of low walls, again, earth tone and color. And then Father talked about lighting, LED lights with sharp cutoff so it doesn't spill onto the adjacent property, and energy efficient lighting. So I think those are the highlights of the master plan. And Art, let's go back up a page. Again, there's that view that you saw before. So those tiers stepping down with pedestrian access up the middle, and then also walkways around each perimeter. So, and then there's that idea of the exit, right turn, left turn, and ingress. So, Art, I'll turn it over to you for the plat portion. Maybe?
Which one, other one?
There it is.
Okay. Well, good evening. My name is Art Beckert with Thompson, Dreesen, and Dorner at 10836 Old Mill Road in Omaha. I have to express, it feels good to be back here in this chamber with you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Again, Father Damien and Dave explained the grand plan we're going toward. To make that work, we need to go through a rezoning and replatting of the existing lots. And that's where I come in. Our firm prepared the new final plat and a rezoning application. We're rezoning the whole property to an R3 category. Right now it's a combination of R3 and R2. R3 will allow the multiple buildings with this land use, religious assembly, to be located within the same lot. And so as part of the replatting, we're actually dedicating some additional property over in this part of this site. Even though it's not necessary for the existing improvements, it's working with your city engineer. We were dedicating that property so that there can be a future additional turn lane when the State Highway Department would allow such a thing, and when the main intersection there would be maybe rebuilt for other reasons. But it's, again, looking ahead to try to plan for that so that the city would not have to acquire property at that time. I'm available for any questions after the other testimony, so thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other proponents? Do we have any opponents? Anybody want to speak in opposition? And if you'd state your name for the record.
I'm Mike Lewis, live at 543 North Washington. Don't really object to the replat. I do have some concerns, however, with the traffic flow along 6th. The access point coming in closest to 84th Street, we have had a real problem. There is a left or a westbound stacking lane for traffic turning left. However, that entrance is marked exit only for the church, and traffic will stack going east to turn into there, and that sometimes you have 2 lanes going east blocking the traffic, and the traffic extends into the intersection of 84th a number of times and has blocked traffic. So as far as the traffic flow is concerned, we're still concerned about a lot of the extra traffic on 6th. You have now 2 more entrances to put more traffic on 6th. And how in the world is that all going to happen? I realize they're extending the stacking lane, but what is that going to be used for? Is that going to be used for westbound traffic, or is that as indicated in the presentation, or will that be used by eastbound traffic for the parishioners? We raised this issue at the Planning Commission. We asked the parish if they would please talk to their congregation, and neighbors have observed that since the Planning Commission. There really hasn't been much change in that activity. So we do appreciate the change in the lighting. I live right east of where the other parking lot is off of Jefferson, and Mr. Mumgard and some others can remember the objections I made to that when they put those horrible tall lights in that parking lot. We can sit in our house and read at night without any lights on in the house. And hopefully this will take care of some of those issues. But I think the city does need to take a hard look at the traffic flow on 6th Street and to basically enforce the laws. If they put a policeman on that street and would pick up the people turning illegally off of that leftbound lane, that would maybe make some revenue for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. As a note of reference, the city doesn't get the revenue on the policing activities. Any other opponents? See no other opposition, we'll close the public hearing. The vote will be at the next city council meeting.
Mayor.
Mr. Stubbe.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question with regard to the issue that was brought up by the citizen with regard to eastbound movement. Marty, is there possibility that once the project is completed that we can evaluate the potential for putting maybe a no left turn sign up at 6th Street? Because I know just driving in tonight, it's difficult to see the existing sign that's in the property anyway. So if there's maybe a way to put a sign up there, is that something that we can maybe consider in the future? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Glover.
I have a question for Art, and if we could see the other one of the other drawings of the parking lot right there to the north. Was there any discussion about taking a lane out through the north, being that property is already owned by the church, to alleviate some of the traffic that comes out on 6th Street?
I believe it's back in 2007, there was a proposal being considered at that time to do that very thing. And it never made it to this body because of testimony at the Planning Commission. And under this scenario, we are not proposing to do that. It may happen, depending how this works and other things happen. Ideally, someday, the church could also acquire more property up here and be able to have a viable exit onto 84th Street at a far enough distance that to satisfy the Department of Roads criteria. Right now, we don't have that distance to be able to do that. But this scenario is not showing or not planning on an access up here. It may be considered in the future, though.
It seems to me that would be a very viable option to alleviate some of everybody dumping on 6th Street. That, people that live on that side of the town could go out and dump onto the streets. And
again, I personally remember some of the testimony, and it was very, very adamant that that's a low capacity street. They don't want, more traffic on it.
Yeah, I get that, but
And,
it's, what, two days out of the week, or 1 day out of the week,
Right.
you know?
But
I get that philosophy,
Right.
not in my backyard, I get that. But, what works best for the majority of the city is something that I think also has to work into that. So, I'm bringing it up as an option, because I do think that that's a viable option that you need to look at.
Okay.
Mr. Mumgard.
Okay, I've got, Art, you might as well just stay there for a second.
Okay.
First off, Mr. Stubbe, where are you talking about possibly having a no left turn for the eastbound?
Just to the east, yes.
Right here.
Right in that location there. Would be most likely it'd be on the south side of the curve.
I'd have a sign located about it.
So they couldn't turn left to go south there?
Into that parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Go north into the parking lot. And
Okay.
then go back to the east.
Okay, I understand it, and I guess I'll ask, I don't know if Marty or the engineers, at some point, we've had some discussions about a right turn lane for westbound traffic turning north on 84th Street, Washington. It's my understanding that that's always been both from an engineering standpoint and an economic standpoint, not feasible. Do you have any comments on that?
I think that's something that NDOR is aware of, but they at this time don't feel it's a viable or necessary to go through with, as far as I understand.
Yeah, and as I recall the discussion, that just moving the traffic lights would be extremely expensive, and I believe that was an idea that I looked at several years ago, and for that reason, I don't think it's ever going to happen. And Art, while you're there, I'm going to disagree with Councilmember Glover over here that about getting any kind of an exit out to the north into the neighborhood. That I have walked that neighborhood many times, and I have heard, as you heard at the Planning Commission back several years ago, I have heard the residents express great fear that that would happen and great disapproval of that happening. And philosophically, I agree with them, that they live in a neighborhood, that the neighborhood does not get transformed into the transportation route for the church. The church has been, over the years, a very, very good neighbor. I see this plan as a continuation of that. And I think in many ways it does alleviate some of the concerns of the neighbors to the north. But I can tell you, Councilman Glover and the rest of them, they'll never get my support for any exit out to the north. It's just not a very practical or neighborly thing to do. So I'm glad that you've drawn it out so that there's nothing there.
Okay.
I do understand how someday you might be able to get an exit onto Washington Street. And I think that'd be very, very, very good. And whatever I could do to help you do that, I'd be glad to help.
Okay.
Mr. Ingberg.
Stay right there, Art, since you enjoy being here so much. Everyone's talked about lighting, they've talked about traffic and everything else, and those are all important things, certainly. But here's my question. With the topographical layout in that area and the elimination of houses, I know you're using permeable pavers in parking areas to absorb water runoff and so forth. Can you tell me that rain garden at the very bottom of the project, how much water is it designed to retain or take care of that would run off because of the way the property lies?
Again, we haven't gotten to that level of detail with this plan yet, but the current policies of the Omaha Stormwater is to control the first half-inch of rain coming off of your site and treat it in some manner. And this would be at least the minimum standards that's being used everywhere. But again, it would be sized to, again, comply with the regulations and to, again, fit the site.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure, because we started adding concrete, and with the lay of the land, I don't want it to end up with a large amount of runoff that's not being absorbed, and there's still houses to the east of there. So I'll trust you'll take care of it as usual.
We appreciate that trust.
Oh, thanks.
Mr. Jaworski.
Art, don't go nowhere.
Okay.
I agree with Mr. Mumgard on this too. I really like what I see. And if we're going to work for an exit off the north, we need to get it off 84th Street somehow. I would back that 100%, but if we're going into a neighborhood, then I'm not liking what I'm seeing. So we have to keep it out of the neighborhoods. I understand that 6th Street is going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of traffic on there, but there's where we only go 2 days a week. So I would really like to see something somehow coming off 84th Street. That would be great, but if that's possible.
Right now, it's just not possible. We just don't have the distances. But with, hopefully sometime in the future, some of these other properties would be coming up for sale, and we could acquire them.
But I also think with this parking lot being as big as it is, with the 4 houses out of the way, a lot of the people will be going east instead of west when they're leaving the parking lots too. They're going to figure it out.
Right.
Thank you very much. I think you're off the hook. Thank you, Art.
I know there's, just mentioned that your city engineer, Jeff Thompson, has been working with us and Department of Roads. Since the Planning Commission meeting, the Department of Roads has already changed the timing on the stoplight there to help them minimize the traffic backups. And Jeff is pursuing also the, working with the state to get a designated left turn signal there to alleviate the, again, current safety concern that there is from that sharp hill being there and people having to turn in front of oncoming traffic without enough, sight distance. So.
Thank you for that. Item F1, Resolution R140184. This is a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve an amendment to the Comprehensive Plan to adopt an energy element chapter. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Do you have any proponents? Do you have any opponents? I'll close the public hearing. Do you have a motion to approve Resolution R140184? Motion by Councilman Ingberg, second by Councilman Glover. Any council discussion? Please vote.
Seven yeas, no nays.
Motion passes. We have an unusual meeting tonight, so I got to figure out my order. We're actually running 2 meetings, and I think it's time to bring the first one to a conclusion. So I don't think we have to do an adjournment, do we? We're just going to do a recess, but then we start right away. So we're on recess. Now we're back. I talked to the scouts about this beforehand. Actually, what's occurring is because of the elections, we had a meeting with the old council, finished all the old business, took a recess. Now what's happening is the new council will be seated. We'll set up the new leadership structure for the new council, and then we'll move forward from there. So recess is over. New meeting has started. We're back on to new business. And so we do need to do a call to order. So, Ms. Wahinkle, would you please take the roll?
Florence. Mumgard. Gaines. Glover. Jaworski. Klug. Stubbe. Ingberg.
And Ms. Myers, acting as the Deputy City Clerk, would you please read the official November 4th, 2014 election results?
Yes, I will. The official election results as certified by the Sarpy County Election Commissioner are as follows. Mayor David P. Black, 5,119 votes. John Strawn, 805 votes. Ward 1, Gene Jaworski, 1,266 votes. Ward 2, Steve Ingberg, 902 votes. Ward 3, Troy Florence, 977 votes. Ward 4, Tom Mumgard, 1,427 votes. Those persons elected have met all requirements as set forth in State Statute 32-602.
And those individuals now need to be sworn in for their new terms, and we're honored to have Judge O'Neill with us. If Councilman Jaworski, Ingberg, Florence, and Mumgard would join me at the podium, we will get our swearing in.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, David Black,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same,
that
I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
and without mental reservation,
and
for purposes of evasion, I will faithfully and impartially perform
and that I will faithfully and impartially perform
the duties of the office of mayor
according to the law and to the best of my ability.
And I do further swear
that
I do not advocate, nor am I a member of any political party
or am I a member of any political party
or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence. And during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence. So help me God. If you all councilmen repeat after me, I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation or for the purposes of evasion, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of City Council according to the law and to the best of my ability. And I do further swear that I do not advocate nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence. And that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence. So help me God. Congratulations.
Judge, thank you again for doing that for us. It's an honor to have you here. Congratulations to the council. Next is item J1, Resolution R140191, a resolution to elect a new city council president for a term of 1 year. And before we do that, I want to acknowledge Councilman Ingberg has been the council president for the last year. Thank you, Steve. And I believe some of your family's here. Want to acknowledge them? Go ahead. Got to turn on your mic.
My daughter Allie, my sister-in-law Val, my wife Donna, my oldest son Zach, and I can't see, and my daughter Lily way in the back peeking, my niece Beasley, and Jamal, her boyfriend Brian, and CJ's back there, he's my nephew, and my youngest son is hard at work running computer systems, so he's not here.
Thank you for your service in that role the last year. Do we have a motion to open nominations for council president? Motion by Councilwoman Klug. Do we have a second? But was that Councilman Jaworski? Thank you. Please vote.
7 yeas, no nays.
Do we have nominations?
I'd
Ms.
like
Klug.
to nominate Troy Florence.
Troy Florence? I don't think we need to second them. Anybody can throw their names out. We have a motion to close the nominations. Is there a second for that? Second by Councilman Jaworski. Please vote for closing the nominations.
Seven yeas, no nays.
Well, Council President, voting on the Council President, I think, is the only vote we can take in secret, but since there's only one, it's not much of a secret. So we do have voting sheets ready to go, but I don't think we'll need them. Is there a motion? If there's no objection, we'll do a motion by acclamation electing Councilmember Troy Florence as Council President. Is there a motion? There's a lot of them. Everybody motioned. We'll give it to Ms. Klug. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Jaworski. Please vote.
7 yeas, no nays.
Congratulations, Mr. Florence. Thank you. Next is item J2, Resolution R140192, a resolution to approve appointments. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R140192? Motion by Councilman Jaworski, second by Councilwoman Klug. Do we have any proponents? I think I'm the proponent. One of the statements I made is people like what they've had the last 5 years. That's what we're going to continue with is the same team, and I saw no reason to make any changes. Have full faith in everybody that's being reappointed, so everybody is being put up for reappointment. Any other proponents? Any opponents? Close. Do we have council discussion? Please vote.
Seven yeas, no nays.
Motion passes. Next is item J3, Resolution R140193, a resolution to approve the appointment of the city administrator and approve the employment agreement. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution R140193? Motion by Councilman Ingberg. Second by Councilman Stubbe. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents? Council discussion? Mr. Ingberg.
I just want to take a moment because Dan, our city administrator, sits up here week after week at council meetings thanking the staff for all of their hard work, and rightfully so. And one thing he never mentions that I will mention, that part of the reason for that success is he's the one that spearheads the operation day to day. He's the one that makes the team work well together. Papillion is what it is today because he's been here as our city administrator for a long period of time. And I'm glad he's still here. Don't go away at least for 4 more years. Thank you.
Any other council comments? Mr. Mumgard.
I guess I have a question for Mr. Hoynes. How do you rank in length of service among city administrators in the state of Nebraska?
I'm one of the old guys now. I think there's two more seniors serving.
Yeah, and and you look around the cities of Nebraska, and it's not unusual to change city administrators very often. And I would say that's one of the pluses we've had here in Papillion, the stability of our leadership. And Mr. Hoynes has certainly been one of the more stable ones. So hang in there. Maybe you'll finish as the longest serving city administrator in the state of Nebraska before you're done.
Any other council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, no nays.
Motion passes. Congratulations on all the appointments, and thank you for what you do. Next would be committee reports, and I don't believe any committees have met. Do we have any comments from the floor? No comments from the floor. Just a couple of updates that I've got for the last couple of weeks. Nothing large, but I did attend the National League of Cities conference. Try to go to that every other year. That was a good conference from mayors and representatives from around the nation. I won't say I walked away with any large, big ideas. What I really walked away with is a validation of how blessed Papillion is. We got the staff doing the right things, and we are pretty innovative, and I think it was a national validation of that. So thank you for that. Winter Wonderland, Mr. Hoynes mentioned. Again, a huge thank you to the staff, parks, public works, recreation, police, fire, but also do want to thank the Papillion Community Foundation. They're a major part of that. The Mayor's Youth Council played a large role in it. The Papillion Junior Women's Club played a big role. The fire local played a role, and also the Downtown Business Association really got on board this year and had a lot of stores open, and that added a whole new dynamic to it. So really a community event. I want to thank everybody for that. I don't know if anybody got a count, but I keep hearing 5,000 people. Don't know if that's right, but it was a big number and a lot of energy and I didn't hear one negative thing. So great community thing. Somebody at the end of it said something that felt like Papillion days at Christmas time, and I think it's becoming a tradition for people kicking off the holidays. So thank you again for that. We had a ribbon cutting today with Papillion Dental Care up in Market Point, 2 new young dentists opening a practice, and then met tonight with Cub Scout Pack 206 from Walnut Creek and Patriot Elementary. And reminder, Friday at noon, there's another ribbon cutting at Tuscany Place, and Recreation on December 20th is having breakfast with Santa at Eagle Hills. And I think if people want to participate in that, registration is due by, I think, the 12th, if I remember right, somewhere in there. Any other council comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Councilman Glover, second by Councilman Florence. Please vote.
Seven yeas, no nays.
We are adjourned. Thank you.